What's up, Diablo players? So this is going to be an update to my lightning arrow, lightning rod, auto mark build that is going to be able to just absolutely delete the bosses. That was a maxed out boss over there, and you can see you're going to be able to delete content very, very fast. But that was already available even in my earlier iterations of the build. Even if you want to use this while progressing, you could still delete bosses even at like tier 15, tier 16 maps very, very consistently, even without the GIGACHAD lucky variant of the build. But if you guys are still leveling, I would still recommend you guys to check out my other build guides for us, because this one is going to focus in on pretty much like the high end over here. So this is going to be not budget friendly. If you do want the budget version, check the previous build guide for it, as that focuses in more on like the late game over here, while still maintaining a budget-friendly option in mind. Now, what I'm going to be focusing in on is kind of mentioning some of the updates to the build, as I have gotten some upgrades, and again, everything is kind of like premium in this version of the build, okay? So for starters, let's go over some of the updates and changes here that I would recommend. Keep in mind, as of right now, what you're seeing in the Mobalytics planner over here is what I actually have as gear. Some of the stuff may not transfer over perfectly because it's a new league. Like the Heart of the Well Jewel, I have to show that on specifically like a screenshot, because some of the stuff doesn't line up absolutely perfectly, but I literally copy and pasted the POB to Mobalytics. But again, there's a lot of new stats that don't quite line up. So if there's something different here, it's not necessarily intended. It's more so that it's just how the app works. So for starters, I just got an upgrade on my bow over here. Ideally though, if you did get a Gemini bow with the implicit of specifically additional arrows is good, but it has a suffix on additional arrows. I crafted this for less than a divine, and this is a fantastic bow over here. What you're looking for is pretty much the same stuff that you would be searching for. Again, the additional arrows, levels of projectile skills, and then just attack speed would be the ideal suffix, but just percent physical damage, tier 1 lightning damage is kind of what you're looking for in terms of the bow. And then for the helmet, anything that gives you a high amount of energy shield, ideally like you get triple tier 1s on like energy shield, flat percent, and then also like hybrid ES plus life is kind of what you're looking for. As far as the quiver goes, what you're looking for is a penetrating quiver, so you can get just better clear speed. Getting extra ranks to projectile skills, dex, flat lightning damage, all these are kind of what you're looking for on the quiver. As far as the amulet, this is a big upgrade. This was not cheap. This straight up, I crafted it, but it cost me 7 divines because I had one bad roll on a desecration, and I paid 3 or 4 divines basically to re-roll the whole dang thing. But I had a guaranteed way of getting this. I'll upload the whole crafting guide for it. Basically, we buy an item that has ideally something that has one of the golden texts. What that does is it guarantees that stat to like never really change. What that is called is a fracture, and I wanted to go ahead and pull this up real quick. So you can actually get a lot of really good crafts this league with specifically the fracture, and this is like the golden text that I was talking about. There's a lot of ways to kind of guarantee really good stats, and you just buy an item that has a good fracture on it, and then you can kind of control your stuff a lot easier. I figured I'd mention it because it's something that is kind of newer, and it really helps you craft like really, really godly amulets in this league, especially if it is already fractured on that plus level of projectile skills, and your chance of fracturing it is somewhere ups of 50% in some cases, which is really good if you do it right. But like I said, I'll kind of reserve that for like a separate video because that's a pretty lengthy process. But you can just always go and purchase the amulet outright. And then one thing that I've made as an addition, and going forward, I will almost always recommend Swift Stalker Co. over Slipstrike, and that is because, one, they're cheaper because a lot of people haven't picked up on this, but there's a lot of high-end players that understand this as well. If you look at the top tier builds, Swift Stalker Co. is like objectively, I would say, better. And the reason why is it gives you reduced slowing potency debuffs on you. That is like several nodes of skill points. That's like, it's so incredibly good. So the chill, the temp change, the grasping vines, all the slows, maims, all these things, right? They slow your character down. It doesn't apply to you as much. It still does, but it's at like reduced amount. So it's actually really, really nice to have, very premium. But again, right now, I would still say a lot of people don't know about it, so they just look for Slipstrike because they just want the highest amount of evasion. It's pretty close in terms of the amount of evasion. The difference is not that big. But as far as our rings go, basically we're just looking for for lightning damage, I actually have like tier 2 or 3 over here. This one just shows 1 to 4. Again, that sometimes some of the stuff copy and pastes over, it kind of just glitches, but I'll try to update it. But basically just high amount of lightning damage added to attacks, and then maximum life, and then if you can get some resistances, and then on one of your rings you want to get physical attack damage leached as mana. That is key with one of the brand new things called the as a major node over here. It's called Walker of the Wild, which allows the mana leech to apply instead of physical. It works with elemental, so it's actually quite good. And again, if you want to read the notes for it, all the stuff. So you want also mana on kill on one of your jewels, that can really help out. And then if you want to get increased item rarity, your rings are an excellent spot to go ahead and do so, but basically capping out on our resistances is definitely going to be key here. Same thing with the gloves. Someone was asking about Hobble gloves, the Hand of Action Wisdom. Those unfortunately got nerfed too hard, and then you lose out on too much stats, really. Like getting that flat mana and flat life is actually quite nice. The added lightning damage to attacks is so good, it's basically just as good as the other one. Plus the increased attack speed, you don't even have to stack too much dexterity, so just getting regular gloves are much better now because those gloves got nerfed. Now, one of the bigger additions is Headhunter. Now, I've been asked, do I need Headhunter for this build? Absolutely not. If you guys have seen my previous builds, we were playing without Headhunter. It just makes the build feel more premium. Again, this is kind of towards the end, and it's specifically the Lucky that I want to focus in on. Do not feel like, oh, I want like the same gameplay, I need to have the Headhunter. You really don't need that. There's actually a better upgrade that's much cheaper that will give you more DPS, and I put quotations because it lets you kind of roll it more consistently, which is kind of the key here. But you do not need a Headhunter, okay? I'm really stressing that to get the similar gameplay. For survivability, Headhunter is actually pretty dang good if you get the right buffs. There's actually some annoyances with Headhunter, I'm going to be real. There's one where it automatically teleports you to the enemy, which I really don't like. I was actually hoping that if you could just remove that mod, that'd be awesome. But yeah, there's a couple mods that you can get that are like not ideal, and sometimes visual clutter can get annoying because you think it's the enemy's explosion, but it's just your stuff. But Headhunter is probably one of the best belts in the entire game. There's a reason why everyone runs it. It's mainly, honestly, better for survivability than really just giving your character DPS. For the boots, though, we're just looking for movement speed. If we can get deflection rating on a couple pieces of gear, maybe that's in the chest piece, the gloves, the helmet. Cannot really roll it unless you get a hybrid one, so keep that in mind as well. For the jewels, this is what I'm running. I'm running one of the maximum life on kill, and then like one of them could have like mana on kill, or you can put it on the passive tree if you want to. But getting increased magnitude of shocked, you can get also any sort of like damage with bows, attack speed with bows. All those are great. But the one thing that I have to show in here, because it does not exist in the mobalytics, again, because they haven't really like, had everything kind of line up yet with the newest update, but Heart of the Well is one of the most expensive jewels in the game to get a really good one. Now, I paid, I believe, 5 div for this one. It gives us extra damage as extra cold, so it applies another ailment, chill, or even freezing, but at a very low rate. It's mainly here because it gives us extra attack speed and fire res for like additional other stats. These 3 other stats were just usable stats. The only thing that matters here is that 24% chance for lightning damage hits to be lucky, in combination with getting a lightning rod, which is one of the more premium and annoyance that we get over here, which allocates lightning rod. So this thing is, again, mainly towards focusing towards like the more expensive version of the build will allocate lightning rod. And if you're wondering what does lightning rod do, because it's kind of important, it gives us a specific thing called lucky on our lightning hits. It's this one over here. We have a 30% chance for lightning damage with hits to be lucky. So to kind of explain this, because it's one of the most important things that's acquired with, again, the Heart of the Well jewel that I have. You want to get this at least 21%. The reason why 21 is because that way you have a 51%, which is over 50% chance to get your hits with lucky in total. So what does lucky do? And the reason why I'm calling it like the GIGACHAD lucky version of the build is because specifically what it enables is you to roll your attacks 2 times. That is the most important thing of this build, because what it does with lightning damage is it increases your chance to hit very hard. So think of it kind of like a crit in the game without going for crit. The best way to explain it is your damage rolls at a range. Now, I don't think I can like pull it up over here. It doesn't like pull up the numbers. But let's say, for example, this is kind of similar in terms of the numbers without buffs. But let's say I do 5,000 to 50,000 lightning damage, right? There's a very big range on how much maximum damage I can hit, right? Or let's say 10,000 damage to 100,000. You can get a very low roll or you can get a very high roll. It's going to roll those stats 2 times and take the best of those results. And that's why I really like running specifically getting that lucky hit chance. There's another thing that I actually acquired in the build that is really good called Wild Storm, which gives us more maximum lightning damage. What this means is on the low end of lightning, it doesn't increase that damage, but on the maximum, it increases that further. So the further that it goes, rolling 2 times is going to be basically giving us way more chances for bigger DPS. It doesn't guarantee it, but right now we have technically 54% chance for our lucky to activate. Now there's another node that you can get with lucky called the spring hair, which also gives you another 20. So in theory you get 75% chance if you roll perfect jewel over here. So this is where the build gets way more consistent, and that's the reason why sometimes your lightning damage feels bad. Is because you're just not getting those like big hits in. So that's kind of the main thing that I would say that you can focus in on with this build. But as far as it goes, that's like kind of like the main thing that I want to focus in on. As far as like the gems go, if you can get 2 of these, you could run 2 of the Rakadia's Flow. This will make it so your damage is treated as inverted, as I've removed all of the penetration on the passive tree, and instead we just rely on this. You can also swap this with Lightning Rod and then also run Chain if you want to with bosses to get even bigger boss DPS, but I'm sure you guys see that like the bosses generally aren't going to be a problem at all with this build. I'm kind of lazy, but if you do want to do gem swaps for the boss or like swap to getting like the Mirage Archer, it could still give you way more DPS. I'm just kind of lazy. I still like have it in the build here, but like I just swap it in and off. If I'm doing some, let's say, Pinnacle boss, you could do it over there, but there's a lot of bosses where no matter how much damage you do, like that boss that's like a bird and he grabs the bell, it doesn't matter how big your DPS is. There's a cutoff point where it just says no more damage. So it's because like these bosses have phases or mechanics, and it doesn't matter, again, how much DPS you have, you cannot one-shot the boss. But as far as it goes, like I said, I literally copy and pasted this. So here's what we got for our build over here. I'll mouse over them, but there really isn't any newer update that I can really talk about to really give you guys any sort of improvements on the build, other than I just threw in Rakadia's Flow because it's like the premium end version of it. But again, you do not need Rakadia's Flow to make the build function, but if you do not have it, you want to get penetration on the tree. In fact, like I said, I recommend going to my previous one, but the most important thing is Lightning Arrow, Rapid Attacks, Lightning Attunement, Stoicism, Elemental Armament 2, and Rakadia's Flow. That's what I actually prefer. Now, there is a Lightning, a Projectile Nova variant of the build. I really hated it, to be honest. It's a big loss of DPS. If you have enough damage, you could maybe get away with it, but if you're doing like Delirium plus doing Breach, high-end stuff, it just lacks too much damage for me to recommend. I like the smoother play style of just going through maps faster, but if you want to add it, I might actually drop another video on it because it requires a gem swap and you can actually do other things for more DPS, but there really isn't anything super important. I also recommend putting Brutus Brain so your pet doesn't like rip sometimes. There isn't really, again, anything that is super important over here as far as it goes. But yes, that I don't know why it shows 2 called shots over here, but again, this is literally copied from the pop. As far as the passive tree goes, there's nothing important to mention that is a brand new, but to kind of go over it really quick, what we have is we have the extra projectiles, and then I get the one where it's close. I guess we zoom in a little bit. You could also get this extra movement speed if you want to. That is kind of an option. If you want to take that, that's fine. Then I haven't really changed up the tree. Make sure, again, you get Walker of the Wilds. If you need the life on kill, there's a couple like, where is it? Recover life on kill. There's like one right here, I guess, and there's like some sort of like mana nearby if you also need to get like a mana recovery on kill if you don't want to get in a duel. But the only bigger addition is then we get Wildstorm here, and the reason why we get Wildstorm is getting that lucky hit. Remember, this is an anoint. If you guys don't know how to anoint your items, I have a video guide on that as well. But basically, you just throw in the correct like colors, and this one requires, I believe, 2 whites and black, so it's not super cheap. Again, this is why it's like the premium endgame variant of the build. If you're running like how many divines in it, I don't know, it's probably around like 70 plus divines for the build. 60 of it is via the headhunter. The rest of the stuff is actually pretty cheap. But again, do not feel like you have to have headhunter to make the build function. The more important thing is getting that lucky hit, which it's like, I don't know, about 1 divine for the anoint and then 5 divines for the other lucky hit on this jewel. So that's going to give you the better upgrade. Do not worry about headhunter. If you're like thinking like, should I get headhunter or should I get this? Get this. It's way cheaper and it's going to make your character feel way better and more consistent, and that's why sometimes you do way big damage with lightning and sometimes you do little damage, but this is going to really help out. I like it a lot. Definitely a fantastic recommendation. Anyways, guys, that's going to wrap up the updates for the build guide as far as our lightning arrow build. I don't know if I'm going to really be changing it up that much, but if there's any questions, let me know down below, and again, the planner will be linked down below. But anyways, have fun, Exiles, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace out.